As we've been learning Ansible, we've done just a few simple things inside of our Ansible playbooks, but you can use an include file when things start to get complicated, because if you're trying to manage your entire infrastructure, it's going to get complex if you just have one giant file. Now, there are two different ways that we can include things. We can include entire plays, or we can just include groups of tasks into an existing playbook. And I guess to explain what including plays means, we should look a little bit at what it means to have multiple plays inside of a playbook. So when we've been doing playbooks, we have just had a single play inside each of our playbooks, which is fine. Basically, you can tell what a play is because it starts with a host definition. Okay, so we've had just like a single play. However, a playbook can have multiple plays, meaning you can start over. So, we've had host become yes, tasks, and then if you go back, remember the tabbing or the white space here counts. If you go back to the beginning of the file here and say hosts and start a whole nother section, this is considered another play. And so a playbook can have multiple plays that come one right after another. And so what we can do is we can build a larger group of plays or of things that we want to accomplish inside of a file. But that would get really messy if we just stuck everything into one big long file. And so what we do is we use include files. So let's say this is our playbook down here, and we have some things on the wall that we want to do. Now, we could either, remember I said we could include entire plays or tasks. So let's say that, I'm pointing the arrow here, so this is our playbook, our master playbook that we're going to be executing. We can include at the base level of the file here at the very beginning. If we put an include statement here, it's going to include plays, right? If it's at the very beginning, it's going to include plays. So like this saw that I have here is a demonstration of a play that has a host definition and then different tasks that take place inside of it. And so we can include this entire file right there at the base level. But what if we only want to include some tasks? Not like an entire play, but let's say that we have, a host definition already. So let's say right here we have, the GUI hosts, which we've been using in our thing, and we want to have a bunch of tasks, but rather than write them out every time, if it's something that is fairly common, like for us, we've installed Apache multiple times because it happens differently on the different operating systems. So if you have things that you want to do, like a group of tasks, you could just include a specific task or group of tasks in a file and include that right there. So we can say, instead of at the root level saying include saw, inside of the tasks definition here, remember this is tabbed out because space matters. If we put an include statement here and we say include hammer, it's going to include this list of tasks. But it's important to note that if it's a list of tasks and it's included inside of a task statement like here, it has to only be a list of tasks, not a host definition file or anything like that. It can't be an entire play. It can just be a task or a list of tasks. So I have this on the command line as well, but I just want you to conceptually understand what's happening. We can either include individual plays into a file and have a bunch of different plays going on, or we can take our playbook and inside of a particular play, we could include a list of tasks. It does get a little confusing, and that's where later on we're going to learn about how to better organize our tasks and our plays and that sort of a thing. However, for right now, I want you to show you the two different kinds of include. So let's go to our computer because I've created a few different include files for us that we can play with. And I know normally I don't pre-make these YAML files, but really what we're going to learn in this nugget is how to include things. So I have two different things here. Now you can't tell by looking at the title of these what they actually do. So let's open this up and look. So install apache.yaml. Let's look at this file. And if you look, it's a YAML file, so it starts with 3 dashes. Whether it's a play include or a task include, all YAML files start with this dash dash dash. That's how it knows that it's a YAML file. So anyway, we look here, and this appears to just be a list of tasks. Okay, so install apache.yaml is just a list of tasks. Now, how do we know that? Well, notice there's no host definition or anything like that. It just starts out at the very front of the file here, name install on Debian, and it's an apt task here where it installs Apache 2. only when it's a Debian file. We've done this in a previous nugget, but this is a list of tasks that when executed will install Apache, whether it's on a Debian or Ubuntu or Red Hat or CentOS. Regardless of what it is, this will install it and get the service going. These 4 tasks in a row. Again, we've done this before, but this is a file of tasks. All right. Here, update systems. Let's look at this. This is an entire play. Actually, this would be considered a playbook with 1 play in it. So we see it starts again with the 3 dashes. But here we do define the hosts. In this case, hosts all become yes. And then there's a list of tasks. All right. And this task actually, if you look at it, I don't know that we've ever done this actually in a nugget. But basically, this will update the system, like run dist upgrade with apt or update all the packages with yum, again, if it's Red Hat or if it's Debian. So this will update the systems, all the systems, and it's an entire play. And this is just a list of tasks that will install Apache regardless of the operating system it's on. All right, so here's where we're going to make our own YAML file. Let's say vi test.yaml. Now the first thing first, 3 dashes. All right, and now I'm going to say, at the very beginning here, I'm going to say include desktop, because that's in the desktop folder, update systems.yaml. All right, and so it's going to include this file at this level of the file, right, or in this level of our playbook. So it's going to include this entire play that is inside this file right here. And then I'm going to continue, and I'm going to make my own play here. I'm going to say, in the hosts GUI, become yes, tasks, and then I'm going to say include desktop install apache.yaml. And what you'll see here, it's formatted the same way. You know, you write the include file the same way, but it depends on where it is in the file. In this case, it's inside the task declaration of this play. So this play has a task declaration, and inside there, notice it's tabbed out. Inside here, I've included this file, which is just a list of tasks. So what this should do is, if we execute this very short, very concise playbook that we've made, it should execute this entire play and then execute these tasks inside this play that we defined in here. Does that make sense? I've included 2 different types of files in 2 different ways inside this playbook that we just created. So let's save this and see what happens when we run it. Then we're going to say Ansible playbook test.yaml, and it should go through and first pull in, yep, it's doing the play on all of the computers, Ubuntu repo and CentOS, and it's doing an update apt on repo and Ubuntu, and it's doing a yum update on CentOS. It's skipping the other ones because we did that when statement, and then it pulled in the other tasks. Then we went down and we did another play. So this play is done just on the GUI machines, and it pulled in those tasks that we got from this install Apache files, right? And it, you know, skipped on CentOS and installed on Ubuntu. This is just that when statement at work here, but it executed all of these tasks that were included from this file. And then boom, at the end we can see what happened, and sure enough we had some changes. It was installed, so now Apache is installed on those systems, and before it even tried to install that, it did update systems, which would be yum upgrade or apt-get update, apt-get dist upgrade on each of those systems. So we've combined a whole bunch of different things inside a very small and very simple playbook. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than this, right? We've included this play from a file, and we've included these tasks from this file over here. And that's really all it takes to use include files. You just have to pay attention how you're indented and where you're including them, because it's different types of included files. And you have to make sure that they're formatted properly for how you're including them. If we include it at this level, we need to know that it has to have that host declaration in here, because it's going to expect an entire play as opposed to just a list of tasks. So while playbooks can have lots and lots and lots of different plays, if you're going to start doing that, it makes sense to include them instead of just writing them all in one big long file. And also, when you use tasks in this way where you include a list of tasks, you can reuse code a lot easier. So if you're making a play and you want to, install a new website, you might just want to include that task to make sure that Apache is installed on all the systems that are involved. So if you're doing something like, oh, I need to update all the websites to have, a new file in there, well, why don't you also just quickly include this list of tasks in this include file so that you can make sure that they're all running, they all have the latest version, and that they all, are executing on boot up and all that stuff. So it's really easy to reuse code if you keep those things in their own individual files. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.